Password for the meeting. Okay. Maybe we can quickly review what we were doing and then take it from there. Okay. So in last class, we started to talk about NumPy, and we are in the phase where we are looking at different packages that will help us in our data science journey. We shortlisted that there are a few packages that are very important. We have NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, and scikit-learn. And within this, we are looking at NumPy right now. Okay. So NumPy is very similar to MATLAB, and it will help us do a lot of linear algebra, which is something that we'll be using a lot when we go into our implementation of machine learning methods. NumPy stands for Numerical Python, and it's a foundational package for most data science packages. The main key advantages are it gives us n-dimension arrays, which are fast, convenient, and space efficient. We will look into, so this is what we looked into last class. This class will look into what is broadcasting and vectorization. We saw how to create rank 1 and rank 2 arrays and to see their shape. We saw some functions that are used to create these arrays. So zeros, full, identity, I, ones, and random. We also saw how to index the different arrays. So there are three kinds of indexing. We can go for integer indexing, slice indexing, and Boolean indexing. And we saw examples for all three guys. And we looked into arithmetic operations. So what Python lists does not allow us, that is Python lists do not allow us to do arithmetic operations directly. And arithmetic operations on lists end up in doing concatenation and things like that, joining. NumPy provides us these arithmetic operators that can, using which we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, find some extra things regarding arrays using square roots and exponential and so on. We can use other methods, sine, cosine, and so on. So this is what this is. Sorry. This is where we left last class. This class will go ahead, right? So before going ahead, do you guys have any questions on NumPy so far? Okay, great. So then we'll go ahead. Okay. So within this class, we'll look at certain more advanced features, something like statistical methods and sorting and set operations. We'll look at mean, median, standard deviation, sorting, union, intersection, difference, and so on. Okay. So let me shift to my laptop screen. Okay. So here we see, we'll start with creating a random array. So in this case, we are creating a random array, and we're using that from using a function called as random. And this random function comes from the module random from NumPy. Okay, we are creating a matrix of 2 rows and 5 columns. We're just multiplying it by 10 to get some big numbers. So ran n, maybe we can, okay. So this is the 2 rows and 5 columns that we obtain. So to find the mean, we can simply, so ARR now then becomes an object of the NumPy family. ARR would be an ND array. We can quickly verify that. If we look at the type of ARR, we can see that it's an ND array. And since it's an object of ND array, it has certain functions associated with it. So one of the functions that we have with the NumPy array is the mean operation. So if we compute ARR.mean, it will take all these 10 values in 2 rows and 5 columns and evaluate the mean, and it says that the mean is minus 4.18. Okay. We can also evaluate the mean. So sometimes this is sometimes this is good enough. That is, we want to take all the numbers and find its mean. But many of the times we need it, since they are in a matrix with 2 rows and 5 columns, the 2 rows and 5 columns have some value associated with it. Sometimes we may want to just find the mean of each of the rows separately. So we want these numbers mean and these numbers mean. And sometimes we may want means of according to the columns. So for each of the columns, we need to find separately what is the mean. So we can do that by providing extra arguments to the mean function. So here we are saying that we need to find the mean using axis equal to 1. So axis equal to 1 means that we are trying to compute means by the row. For each row, what is the mean? So when I evaluate this, you see that, okay, for row number 1, the mean is minus 4.37. And for row number 2, the mean is minus 4.004. Okay. Similarly, if we do it by column, for each of the different columns, we can find what the mean is. So these are the different values of means. Further, we can also use the sum operation to add all of these numbers together. Okay. So I think we had seen that earlier, but we'll see it here as well. So when you do ARR.sum, we can find the sum for all the elements. We can also do sum using, I think, axis values. So if I do axis equal to 1, find sum, we can find it on the sum for row wise. And when we do it using axis is equal to 0, we can find the sum column wise. Further, if you want to find median, we pass it to the NP. Okay. So in this case, we are using median, which is the function, and then passing it the ARR value and axis 1 to tell us we have to find median on which end. But I don't know if ARR has a median function associated with it. So we can quickly verify. Yeah. So mean is available as part of the object, as part of the functions available with the object, but we don't have a median, and hence because of that, we had to evaluate median using the NumPy module, and then from that function calling the ARR variable. Okay. So here also we'll have with axis 0 and axis 1, we can find the median. Do any of you know what a median is? What is the difference between median and mean? I cannot see. Can someone try and explain?
Mean is nothing but the sum of all the values divided by the number of values.
Okay, that's right.
Median is the middle value of a set of values from lowest to the highest.
Yes, that's right. Exactly right. Okay, so mean is the average or mean value, as Swechha said. You take the sum of all the elements and divide it by the total number of elements. The average value, the mean value, is what we have here. Median is when I take all the numbers and I sort them in an order. So let's say, what is the median for the first row? If I sort them in the order, these are 5 elements. The third element will be the median. So in this case, this would be the lowest number would be minus 13. Then next is minus 9. Then we have minus 0.75, minus 0.27, and then this one. So because of this, I think this guy would be the median here. Let us verify. So if we take median on axis 1, we see that minus 0.1575 is actually the middle value. So these statistical terms are something of an importance for us, especially when we look at data science. Data science, in the initial places we saw, data science is a mixture of 3 main fields. We've got maths and stats. So from mathematics, we've got statistics, linear algebra, probability, and things like that. And then within computer science, we've got algorithms and so on. And whereas from the domain, we have the domain. So knowing more about the domain. So in the stats idea, we need to know something about mean, median, mode, how they are useful, what is sampling theorem, and so on. We'll look into that as the course goes by. Okay. This median, we can also evaluate standard deviation for axis 1 and then for axis 0 as well. Let me have an example of that. You know what is standard deviation? So maybe in short, I can explain. Standard deviation is basically the difference or how far does my values vary from the mean, okay? Or what is the expanse from the mean? And a measure of that is the standard deviation. So we look into it when we go for a package called as matplotlib. So it will give us a visual representation of how is the distribution of our data. So looking at numbers is not very, it's difficult to explain this concept, but we look at it when we go to matplotlib. That will give us some more exposure. Let's go ahead. We can do sorting of elements within NumPy. So in this case, we are creating a normally distributed 10 element array. If I execute this, we get 10 elements which are normally distributed. And we can do sorting by just so here we are. Okay, let me just see why we are specifically making it an array. Is the type of this not an array? If I do type of unsorted, okay, so it's actually an array. Here probably we are copying it to a different variable, which is and we're copying it using a method called as deep copy rather than shallow copy. Probably for that reason, we are putting it through an NP array unsorted. So sorted would be a deep copy of unsorted. And we can, since again, this is an object of ND array, it comes with a sort function associated with it. So when you do sorted.sort and we print sort and we print unsorted, we can see that this is the sorted version. So this is the most negative, and then it climbs the number line to the most positive. And this was the original array. So sorted helps us to sort array elements. And again, many of the times this would be a very useful thing to work around when we go to data science. Let's look at certain set operations. So we have seen sets as a data type for Python, but we can use set operations within NumPy package as well. So in this case, we are just creating a set of elements. So again, an array, 1, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, 4, 2. If we want to know what are the unique elements, we can call the np.unique function over this array. And that gives us, okay, there are three unique elements, 1, 2, and 4. Okay. An interesting thing is NumPy arrays need not just have integers. We can use string elements within the NumPy array also. Okay. So here we are creating two arrays, S1 and S2. The string elements here is desk, chair, and bulb. In the second case, we've got lamp, bulb, and chair. When I execute this, we can see that, okay, there are two different arrays, S1 and S2 with these values. If you want to find what is the intersection that is between these two, what are the common terms? So we have chair bulb here and chair bulb here. We can do it using something called as intersect 1D. That is the function that is provided by NumPy. And we pass S1 and S2. So when we execute this, it says we've got bulb and chair as the common terms. Very similar to what we did in sets. We can also find the union. We can say, okay, the union will be the 4 elements, bulb, chair, desk, and lamp. This will be what is the difference between the two terms, S1 minus SD. From this, if I remove this, we are left with just the desk. And which elements of S1 are also in S2. If we do this, we'll say, okay, false, true, true. So desk is not there, whereas chair and bulbs are available. So that's our basic idea of getting familiar with few statistical methods, sorting methods, and set operations within NumPy. Okay. So let me shift back to the iPad where we'll explain this concept of broadcasting. So within NumPy, one of the advantages of one of the highlights of NumPy we saw was broadcasting. And what broadcasting is when we try to add or when we try to do operations between arrays of different sizes or between ND arrays of different sizes, then broadcasting can help us a lot. So let me show an example. So let's say we have numbers like this. And this is a matrix that we have. So I know if I have to do an addition operation, this matrix size is 3 rows and 2 columns. If I have to do an addition operation, I need to have a matrix of 3 rows and 2 columns. Sorry, I need to have a matrix with 3 rows and 2 columns. Okay, but with broadcasting, what I can do is, let's say I want to add to this 5,0, I can do that. Okay, what broadcasting will do is it will take this row and it will add this row to all of the 3 rows of this matrix. Okay, and what I will end up with after this operation is I will end up with maybe this is 6, 2, 8, 4 and 10, 6. So broadcasting operation allows me to take a row which normally I would not be able to add this, and it would translate this row into probably something like this. And because of this translation, I am actually able to add these two together and I can get my results in the outside. Okay. So this is broadcasting with using rows. We can also broadcast with using columns. So let's say for a similar example, or for the same example, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. If I try to add something like this, 1, 2, 1. Normally, I should not be able to add this, but with broadcasting, it adds this column. So it understands inherently that my size here is 3,2 and this size here is 3,1. So I'm trying to do column broadcasting. It will take this column and will add it individually to each of the columns of the base matrix. Okay. So here it would give me the answer as 2, 5, 6 and 3, 6, 7. Okay. So this is an example of column broadcasting. Okay. And finally, scalar would mean I will take an array and I will try to add a scalar value, a 1 cross 1 value. And what that would do is it would simply add the scalar value to all the terms of the array. Okay. So here there is no inherent row and column. So it will just add all the values it will add this value to all the values of the elements of the arrays. And this is your scalar broadcasting. The concept is very simple to understand. And this is very useful concept, especially if you are doing linear algebra. You will see that this idea will save us a lot of programming and it will save us a lot of time when we have to implement neural networks or when we have to implement methods like decision trees and so on. Okay, these are very useful tools that NumPy provides. So let us shift to our screen to see how this would look in action. Okay. So we'll start off with uh, a zeros matrix with 4 rows and 3 columns. And to this, we will try to, we will be creating a row of 1, 0, and 2. So this is, the size here is 4 cross 3. The size here is 1 row and 3 elements, okay? So, okay. So you see, inherently, this is not 1 row and 3 elements. This is a rank 1 array. So rank 1 array means they're just 3 elements. It doesn't understand in the terms of rows and columns. But since here there were three columns, and here there are 3 values, it would add this in terms of rows. Okay, so let me try to add these 2 terms. So when we take start and add rows, and when we sum them together, the operation of broadcasting happens, and 102 is added to each of the different rows here. Okay. Let's see another example where we start with columns. And again, this is an ND array. And here the ND array, we can see here is a 2-dimensional array, that is our rank 2. Okay. Because we cannot represent columns in just one value. So here we have created add calls and we have transposed it so that we can have it as a column structure. So probably this helps us to understand that when you create a rank 1 array, the preference is that this would be a row array. Even though we don't talk in concepts of rows and columns for rank 1, inherently, for at least for broadcasting tasks, it is assumed that this is a row. Whereas here for broadcasting tasks, we have to transpose it so that it becomes a column matrix. So with this as a column matrix, when we try to add it with the zeros that we started off with, we can see that it has been added into all the 3 columns, okay? 0, 1, 2, 3. And this is our broadcasting in column. Here we are looking broadcasting in the scalar. So we have a scalar value of 1. And when we try to add it to our zeros, we can see that this scalar has been added to all the different values. Okay, maybe we can look at one more example. So here we are starting off with 3 rows and 4 columns of these values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we are trying to add it with another array. So this array is a rank 1 array with 4 elements. So this probably can be assumed like a row, 0, 1, 0, 2. And we add them together. It will add 1. So it will add this row to each of the independent rows. So which we can just verify that for the first column, all zeros are added. For the second column, all ones are added. So 2, 6, and 10 becomes 3, 7, and 11. 3, 7, 11 remains same because we are adding 0 to it. And 4, 8, and 12 become, by adding 2, they become 6, 10, and 14. Okay. So I hope this part would be clear. See what we have next. Okay. I'll shift quickly to the screen. We'll see how this works. Okay. So after broadcasting, we can look at some of the other functions that are available. So here again, as I said, NumPy is so huge. We cannot comprehend. We cannot go by doing each and everything, but we can focus at some of the important elements that can help us for our data science journey. Okay. So we look at dot product. So with any matrix, what we saw earlier with arithmetics here is when we try to multiply two matrices. When we try to multiply two matrices, this does an element-wise multiplication. In fact, all of these operations, they do an element-wise operation. But when we want to do, sometimes since we're dealing with matrices, we want to do matrix multiplication, right? So if I have something like 1, 2, and I want to multiply it with 2, 1, then this is a matrix multiplication. the result would be 1 times 2 plus 2 times 1. That gives me 4. But if I want to do something like this in NumPy, I have to either do it using the NumPy dot function, np dot, and I provide the two matrices. So 1, 2, and then this would be 2, 1. And that is how we can do it with NumPy. And we have another operation also. We can do something like this, 1, 2. And instead of using asterisk for multiplication, we will use @ for multiplication. And we'll do it with 2, 1. And using this method also, we can do the dot product. Another interesting function is the reshape function. And what the reshape function helps us to do is it helps us to exactly reshape the numbers. So let's say if I give you a task that we have to create a matrix like this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is what we have to create. What we can simply do is we can create a range of values from 1 to 6. I can do that using np dot a range, starting from 1 and ending at 7. And what this would do is this would give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. When I have this, then I can reshape it by calling dot reshape it as 2 rows and 3 columns. When I do 2 rows and 3 columns, it will take this part and put it down here so that we get something like this. Okay. So that is how the reshape function works. We'll look at it when we look at some more examples. Let me go ahead. Then we can do transpose. We have already seen an example of transpose. So if ARR is my array, if I do ARR.t, that gives me the transpose of the array. We have the where function, which is very interesting. I'll not explain it here. We'll go it inside the code and we'll see. Where function will basically help us to filter out the different elements of an array, and not just filter out based on whether the filtering is true or not. We can do certain operations on it also. So it's very useful. Then we have the any or the all Boolean operators. So any or all is when we try to filter out something using a criteria. And let's say if it's a small array, it's a small number of values that we have, we can quickly visually verify and see if it is true or not. But when you have millions of elements in your array, you cannot visually see which of those were true or which of those were false. That is where when we use any. So any operation tells me if out of those hundreds or thousands of different values, is any of them true? And that is what any stands for. And all will help me to understand, are all of them true? And these are again very useful elements that we use for data science. And we'll be using them very heavily. Maybe not too heavily, but we have some examples of using any or all within our cases. Then we look at different random generators. So there are, as I was telling earlier, we have uniform, we've got normally distributed, we've got integers, and we've got different things on how we can generate random numbers. And finally, we'll look at horizontal stack, vertical stack, and concatenate, where we can join different matrices together in different combinations. Okay. So let me shift back to the screen. Okay. So we'll look at dot product. So here we are starting out with two different arrays, x2d and y2d. And we can evaluate the dot product using two methods. The first is I take the first matrix and dot with y2d. That gives us our multiplication. Other way is we can do an np dot and pass the two parameters, pass the two matrices x2d and y2d, and that gives us the answer. We can also look at the third one where we do x2d and @ with y2d, and that gives us matrix multiplication with the same answers. Okay. So this first with matrices. We can also do that with vectors. Again, the same idea. A vector is nothing but uh, the same the elements with just one row and one column and so on. So here we have 9, 9 as one of the elements and 10, 10. Individual multiplication would give me 90 and 90, but dot multiplication or matrix multiplication would give us 9 times 10 plus 9 times 10, which is 180. Okay. And we can do dot product with a matrix and a vector as well. So you just have to ensure that the rules of matrix multiplication applies. As long as those apply, we can work it out. Rules of matrix multiplication is where when you are multiplying these two ways, the columns of y to d is equal to the rows of the columns of x to d are equal to the rows of y to d. So long as this criteria is satisfied, we can multiply two items, whether they are matrices or whether they are vectors and so on. This is an example of reshape. Let's say we create a list going from 0 to 20. Here means 0 to 19. And there are 20 elements here, and we want to reshape it as 4 rows and 5 columns. We do a dot arr dot reshape function in 4 rows and 5 columns. So it will take the first 5 values, put this into one row, next 5 values, put that into one row, and next 5 values, put that into one row, and so on. Okay. Here you may notice that we are using the dot arange function. So in our exploration earlier, we have seen the range function. Okay. Range function is this. Here we get the answer as a range. We're going from 0 to 20. If I want to unpack this, if I want to see what is there inside, I think I can get done by doing list of range 0 to 20. And that gives me the unpacked version. But when you look at its type, we can see that this is a list. Okay, I'm interested. Okay, the list of elements. Maybe we can put this into a value. The x is equal to this, and yeah, x2 will be a list. Okay, so this is the Python, the base Python way of defining stuff. But with NumPy, we can use the NumPy np.arange function. And for all our purposes, the way we would use arange is exactly the same way. If I do NumPy arange 20, we see that it creates an array here. And if I look at its type would be ND array. Okay. So again, when I require these sequences of numbers for matrix multiplication and so on, it would make sense to not make it as a Python list, whereas to make it as a NumPy ND array. Okay. So here we're just using that again. So we could use the same way. It has a start and stop. If you want to start by some other value, let's say we start by 5, and at 20 with gaps of maybe 3, and the same way that we would use the range function, we would use the np.arange function. The only difference is this outputs ND array, whereas this outputs a range object, and I can convert that range to a list. Let's go ahead. We've seen transpose already, so this is just a simple example of transpose. When you go with 11, 12, 21, 22, and we take its transpose, we can see the columns 11 and 21 becomes the row, and the row 11, 12 becomes the column as 11, 12. The where operation looks like this. Let's say we start with x1, which is an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and y1, which is an array of 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. And if we create a filter, okay, so we're creating a filter of true, false, true, false, true. Let's say this. And now we are trying to filter out using this criteria. Okay, so saying for NumPy np.where for this filter, okay, return x1, sorry, return x1 whenever there is true, and return y1 wherever there is false. Okay, so let me show you what this looks like. When I execute this, if the filter value is true, it will return an element from x1. So here, since it is true, element from x1 is 1. So that is what it gets returned. If the filter value is false, it will return an element from y1. So when it's returning an element, it is returning the element in the corresponding location of filter. Okay, so here it returns to us 22. Then true, it returns to us 3. False, it returns to us 44. True, it returns to us 5. That is why we get this output here. Okay, so this may seem a bizarre implementation. Why would someone need this? And maybe I can show you an example, a probable example of how this can be used. Okay. So let's say we created a random distribution. So if I use the rand function, it will give me values between 0 to 1. Okay. So 5 cross 5, 5 rows and 5 columns. And we want to do an operation. We want to see that wherever we have a value which is greater than 0.5, we want to replace it by 1000. And whenever we have a value which is less than 0.5, we want to replace it using -1. So we can do that using this operation here. You can say, so here we are creating a filter. So by simply taking an array and putting a condition to it. So this array, whenever it is greater than 0.5, will give us a series of trues and false. Let me probably quickly show you that. It will give us a series of trues and false depending upon if this criteria is satisfied or not. Okay. So for this series of true and false, when we apply the true value, so here it means that wherever this is true, we will replace by this number 1000. Wherever it is false, we will replace by -1. When I execute this, we get series of numbers that we decide. And these are very useful things that NumPy provides us. And we can see how maybe in later classes, when we reach to machine learning, we'll see how this is useful. Then we talked about the any or all conditions. Let's say we start with this. If we look at our array Boolean, so we have true, false, true, true, false. If we see the any criteria, that are any of them true? So answer is yes. We have at least one criteria, one of them being true. Are all of them true? So we said no, false. So we have to remember how to ask this question. If I ask any of them false, this would give a wrong answer. So this only works for true values. We are asking, are any of them true or are all of them true? So let me test with all of them being false. When all of them are false, any will return a false and all will also return a false. And when all of them are true, any returns a true and all also returns it. Okay, let's go ahead. Then we look at different ways of creating random numbers. So here we are creating random numbers from a normal distribution. Here the size is 1 row and 5 columns. And let me remove this and we'll see what has changed. Okay. So by default, this creates a rank 2 array. If I'm just interested in the rank 1 array, I'm doing a selection of the first element. The first element is the only element that we have here, because of which we get this. So this is just a normal distribution of values. If you want integers, then we can use the randint function and we can define how many we want. So it says that we want 4 integers from 2 to 50. Okay. When I execute this, it gives us 4 values in the range 2 to 50. Okay. Once we have Z here, if we want to have a new kind of ordering for this element, we can call from the random module, we can call the permutation. When I execute this, we can see that it has permuted 14 and 47. If I execute this again, from the same, so it will give us basically different combinations of the same matrix here. Okay. So if I run this multiple times, you can see this order keeps on changing. Then we have the uniform operation, and it creates us a distribution. It gives us values from a uniform distribution. Okay, so here we see that we're having 0.99. Maybe when we look into Matplotlib, we will talk about what do we mean by these distributions. What is a normal distribution? What is a uniform distribution? What is a Gaussian distribution? And so on. Okay. Similarly, from a normal distribution, when I take sizes, so something exactly like here, we can get values as well. Then we are finally looking to the last part of our NumPy, where we will try to merge different data sets. So here we're starting out with two different data sets, K and M. K is an array of, K is 2 cross 2 with lows and highs being 50, 2 to 50. Similarly, M is also the same, a similar answer. And this is what K and M looks like. When we try to merge them together, there are two different ways we can do it. We can do a vertical stack, that we can take these two rows and attach these two rows at the bottom of this and something like this. So we are doing a vertical stack, or we can do a horizontal stack. Horizontal stack is putting them next to each other. That is taking these two columns and adding these two columns next to each other. And that is what we see here using a horizontal stack. Or we can do a concatenate operation. So instead of vstack and hstack, I can use the concatenate function and pass access 0 or access 1. So access 0 will help me to do something what vstack was doing, and access 1 will help me to do something that hstack was doing. Okay, so we have a common function that can do both horizontal and vertical stack. So this is our exploration of the NumPy package. Do you have any questions at this point? Okay, great. So what we can do is I can quickly introduce to you the assignment, how that looks like. So if you see for packages, if you open the Classroom, Google Classroom, within Classwork, I've added this NumPy assignment. This is zip file. When you download and extract this zip file, it will give to you these files. And from these files, once you open it in the Jupyter Notebook, where is it gone? When you open it in the Jupyter Notebook, you will have these files. So out of these files, you have to open the notebook here, which is 100 NumPy exercises. Okay. So when you open the 100 NumPy exercises folder notebook, this notebook opens up. And this notebook is basically 100 NumPy exercises. And this is something that will help us to see, practice different things within NumPy. And we can see how this works out. Okay. So here there is an function for the first line. It calls a Python file called as initialize. And what this helps us is, after you execute this line, if you go to one of the questions, let's say you come to question number 9, it says create a 3 by 3 matrix with values ranging from 0 to 8. Okay. So let's say you don't know the answer to this and you want to get a hint. You can write hint of 9, because this is question number 9. And when you execute this, it gives you that, okay, this can be done using the reshape function. Let's say this hint is not enough, you want the answer. You can write answer of 9, and that will tell you what is the answer. Okay, so it says okay. So here I think there is a confusion. Instead of 9, it is giving the answer for 10. Let me see if we have messed something up. Okay, let me go to a different example. So here I do answer of 17. So maybe there's an error in this part, but generally when you go to a question, you don't know its answer, you can use the hint or the answer function. Okay. So in the background, what it does the answers are stored, the hints and solutions and answers are stored in these MD files. MD files are markdown files, and using this function, initialize function, there are some functions written which can extract the material here and post it as cells here. So you have to keep this zip file intact. Don't move elements. Otherwise, it will not be able to search the answer. And when you open this, now there is one package that is required to use the initialized py file. It is called mdutils. So I've written this cell here, which will help us to, when you execute this, it will install the necessary package that will help you to run this file. So if you are not able to run it on your system, maybe you can message me and then I can look into this. But normally, if you run this package, if you run this line, it will see if the package is installed or not. If it is not installed, it will install it. If it is installed, it will just say that requirement is already satisfied. Then you run this file and then you do the assignments here. Okay. So these are too many assignments. There are 100. You need not do all of them. Just try to do some numbers randomly here and there. And over a period of time, as you improve your skills, we can do some of the other ones. Maybe in this case, let us try to do a few simple ones and then few hard ones to see how this could be done. So let's say we have a function, create a null vector of size 10, but the fifth value is 1. Okay. So what we can start with is, let's say we start with a matrix Z. Z is what they are using for all the answers. So let me start with Z. Size 10, but the fifth value is 1. So first we'll create np.zeros of size 10. If I take 10, if I look at Z, we can see again, Z is of size 10 and the fifth value is 1. We can say Z of 5 is equal to 1. And when I put Z, I can see that, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth value is 1. If I want to verify if this is the answer, I can verify by answer 6. And you can see, okay, they have done something similar, but this okay. Fifth value would be 0, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth value would be with index 4. Yeah. Probably how we understand questions is it. Yes. So yeah, doing it this way helps me to get the answer. Let's look at some other ones. So create a vector with values ranging from 10 to 49. So we saw we can do this using the randint function. So z is equal to np dot random dot randint. Okay, or I guess they're not going for random values. They're going for values that are starting from 10 and ending in 49. So that would be using the np.arange function, starting from 10 and going to 50. Gives me z. So I want to see if we have done right. Let's do answer of 7. Yeah, so that is what we're looking for. Okay. Maybe let's take something more complex down. Consider a generated function that generates 10 integers and uses it to build an array. Generator function that generates 10 integers. Okay, I have no idea what the question wants me to do. So let me put hint of this from iter. So this is something that we have not seen. This is something that is new. So let us look at the answer and see if we are able to understand it. So here they are creating a function called a generate. And for this function generate, for x in range 10, yield x. And from iter, generate t type float and count is equal to -1. Okay. So maybe at this point we need some more information on what is from iter. We can do help np dot from iter. So from iter I think stands for from iteration. Let me see this. Says help on the built-in function from iter in module numpy. So it takes an iterable, okay, the data type and count. So create a new one-dimensional array from an iterable object. So an iterable object is providing data for the array, data type, blah, 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 and so on. Let's look at some examples. So an iterable is something like this. So here is a tuple as an iterable. And from that tuple, we are creating a numpy array. Okay. And in this case, they're using the generator as an iterable. So let us probably try this out. So if I copy this and I paste this, then we are creating a generate function. When we look at the generate function, and maybe let's say if we execute the generate function, it creates a generator object. Okay, so it creates an object that will give this answer. Maybe let us say generate one. So, or maybe if I say list of generate. So it's a generate object, a generator object that can give us values if we try to fetch from it. So in this case, instead of calling the list, since we want the answer in NumPy array, we call the np.fromIter function. So if we copy this, instead of this, we put this one, and we say, okay, what data type are we looking for? So let's go for integer and see what this works out. And count is equal to as many are there. That gives us this value. Let's say if you want just one element, it fetches only the first element. If you want 5 elements, it fetches 5 elements. And if you want to keep fetching and keep fetching as many are there in the iterable, we do a -1. Okay.
Elijah, what is that yield means?
Yes, good question. So let us search what is yield. Okay, so yield is something that is not directly available. So let me see if it is a NumPy thing. I don't think it's a NumPy thing. Maybe we'll have to go to Google and say yield Python. So when to use yield instead of return? Okay, so it's a replacement for return, and the yield statement suspends the function's execution and sends a value back to the caller, but retains enough state to enable function to resume where it left off. Okay. When resumed, the function continues execution immediately after the last yield run. This allows code to produce a series of values over time, rather than computing them at once and sending them back like a list. See an example. So here function simple generator fun yield 1, 2, 3. So as many times as you call this function, it will return different values. Great. So when I want to take a function and I want to get the output in parts, that is where we can use this. So in our case, so yield x. So if you call it the first time, it will return to us only the first iteration here. If we call second time, it will return to us the second iteration, I guess. So, and we cannot call it directly as generate. So we have to call it using one of the things that will convert the generator into a value. So if you're using base Python, we can use the list, or if you're using NP NumPy, you can use fromIter, which calls this and returns it in parts. So maybe it's this is too complex, but the thing is the documentation is quite helpful to help us understand how things work out. So let's say when you're doing one of these assignments, you don't understand something, you can do exactly what I did. So in this case, I did not know this case, which is where I explored further, and that will give us a brief idea of what this is. And hopefully in the future, if you know enough of these, we can use them in different applications. So let me look at something which is not dependent on finding something new, but something that we can use. So let us see. Okay, create a random vector of size 10 and replace the maximum value by 0. Okay. So this I think we can do easily using the var function. So random vector of size 10. So let me say z is equal to np.random dot any of the random methods, maybe rand of size 10. That is the first part. This is a random number of size 10, and replace the maximum value by 0. So we have to find the max value and replace it by 0. So we could do this by probably, let me do it in different cells. The max value here is max of Z, which is this one. And if I want to replace it by 0, I need to know at what index I found it. So I know that I can do an np.argmax. So np.argmax gives me the location of where the max value is. Okay. So this is 6, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got the element. And I can simply say Z of this value should be equal to 0. And when I execute this and I print Z, I should not print Z now. If I print Z, then we see that this element has become 0. Okay, so a random vector of size 10 and replace the maximum value by 0. Let us see how the solution is. So if I look at answer of 45, so something similar, right? So random value. Okay, so this tells me that for argmax, I need not do np.argmax. I can also do z.argmax because argmax comes as a function of the nd array package, which is good. So this would be another way of doing the solution. Does this help? Have you understood? Probably this is just opening up places where you can practice some more. Try to do as much as possible. Need not to do everything, but that would just expose you to different NumPy functions. So many of them we have seen in our course, and in fact, not many of them. We have in this lecture, in the series of these lectures, I've just explored the commonly used ones. But there are so many different NumPy itself. If you go to study NumPy, you can take months to study NumPy. But our purpose is just having enough exposure that will help us to do our next tasks. Okay. Do you have any questions at this point? Okay. Sure, then in that case, we will stop our class. We can have our next class maybe day after tomorrow. So on my Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Okay? Let me stop sharing. Okay, then we will meet later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye.